I've got this brand new MacBook Neo. It's 512 gigabytes of storage, as you can see here in the settings. I want to double memory, so I'm going to show you how I do that. First, turn it off. Let's flip it over, and we have 8 screws on the back. They are all the same size for once. And the back has never come off so easily. There's 2 clips, one on each side, and then it comes away clean. 2 screws in a bracket cover up the battery connector, which pops up easily. And I love these old style connectors where we just flip up the bar and slide it on out. We'll flip up the flaps and slide out the flex cables and pop out these Lego style connectors. We got 3 flex cables here. We'll flip up those flaps, and there's a big long one under the sticker here. We'll gently flip it up and we can pop out the 3 flex cables one at a time, just like that. We got a bracket with a single screw that covers up 2 coax cables, another bracket with 2 screws that cover up the 2 USB-C ports, flex cable, and then we'll flip up the flap on this other display flex and pop it out. And we can disconnect these 2 big connectors, pop them out, and then get under the necks of the coax cables and pop them out. And that's everything disconnected from this motherboard. Super simple. We got a handful of screws we need to take out. 2 on this side, 1 here in the middle, and then 2 on this left side. And now the motherboard is completely free to come out. No adhesive, nothing else holding this down. Look at this MacBook motherboard. I love how small it is. This means it's going to be much easier to work on. I'm going to clamp down on the motherboard, and we're going to protect these 3 plastic connectors because they will definitely melt with the temperature that we need to get this NAND to. And I'm going to cover up the battery connector as well. Now we'll take it under the microscope. I'm going to come in with a low airflow and a low temperature, around 200 to 250. And I'm going to carefully savor the next 10 minutes or so, cleaning out the underfill that's holding all of these small components that surround the NAND to the NAND. We're going to create a nice groove, removing all of the underfill along the entire border of the NAND. It definitely takes a bunch of time and precision, but if I'm careful, I'll be able to cut through that adhesive. Now we're going to be using one of my favorite tools. This little needle slides in between the NAND and the motherboard. It allows for little to no pressure, allowing me to save the chip without scratching it or the board. I'm going to take it up to 450 degrees Celsius with a high airflow, and you can see how hot things get. Try not to burn those connectors, and we'll pop it off. Here I've got an iPhone 16 series 1 terabyte NAND. This is compatible with the MacBook Neo, which is great. This one is still a good 512 gigabyte chip, and I can reuse it on, say, an iPhone 16 series or anything else that's compatible, so we'll save it. We'll take this 1 terabyte NAND, and I'm going to reball it. It comes with some solder on it, but nothing that's sufficient enough that I could go solder it down. You can see that they're soldered, but they're relatively flat. We'll get out a stencil. I'm going to store the 512 gigabyte here. Get some Kapton tape. We'll cut a few inches of it. And this is my preferred method. We'll stick it to the back of the Kapton tape until I like the position of it. Let me know in the comments below if you have any tips and tricks on reballing larger chips like this, where the stencil likes to warp and things like that. Here's what I like to do. I'll line it up perfectly by eye or under the microscope. And then we can stick down the tape, just like that. Now under a microscope, I'm going to take some solder paste, and I'm going to smear it into the stencil. This is relatively dry solder paste. As you can see, it takes a little bit of effort to get it into the stencil, but that's the way I like it. And I'm going to take my time to make sure I don't miss a single hole in the stencil. And the way that I do this is I smear it, scrape it, flip over, and I flip over my blade, and I smear that section into it. Once I like what I see, I'll grab a microfiber cloth and we'll wipe away all of the excess. Then using a pair of tweezers to hold down pressure, we'll come in with a hotter rework station. Got it set with a low airflow around 400 degrees Celsius. And I'm going to start warming up the entire area, then focus in on one corner. And we'll go in a little bit closer and slowly move the heat across and watch each one of those rows of solder balls form. Super satisfying. I love this part. We'll let it cool down. We can peel away the tape from the stencil, and if we've done it right, it should pop right off and stay on the tape. Now, one of the final steps in preparing this IC is I'm going to add a little bit of flux. That may be enough to cover it. Maybe I have to add a little bit more, but I want to thoroughly coat all of the solder balls in flux. This will prevent them from oxidizing when I go to solder it. I don't want any cold joints. I want the solder to flow, so I'll heat this up. And we've got it's mostly covered now. I need a little bit more on this one side. I'm going to try to push it that way with the air, but it's not working. So we'll add a little bit more on this side. That should be plenty. And I'm going to go in and hit this with heat again and get all of the solder to melt one more time. This will snap any of the balls into place that aren't perfectly aligned. And this will also cause the flux to go everywhere evenly, spread out nice and evenly. And then we'll let it cool down. And now I have a perfectly reballed NAND with 1 terabyte. It's amazing that this can store a whole terabyte of information. Now we need to clean up the motherboard and prepare it for the new NAND. There's underfill that's surrounding the entire area. We'll add some flux. I'm going to come in with my soldering iron. I've got a little bit of 138 solder paste on the tip. It kind of looks grainy there. And I'm going to mix this with the factory solder. This will allow the soldering iron to skate across the top of the board and help start to remove some of that underfill without damaging the pads. As you can see, there are the copper colored pads around the perimeter. Those you'll have to do some decent scraping to make solder stick to them, so don't. But all of the ones in the center, we need to wick them clean of solder. And so adding low melt will help lower the temperature you need to get everything to, allowing the wick to really suck everything up nicely. I'm going to take some wick that I've folded over, and we will suck up all of the solder that we can. For those of you wondering, 375 is a decent temperature to have your iron at. Depending on the size of the tip, it may need to change, so find what works best for you. So I'm just going to go around and get as much of the solder off as I possibly can, and we're pretty much flat on all of it. You can see that the flux is starting to discolor, which means it's probably about time that I clean it. So now that I'm satisfied with the level of solder that I've removed, we're down to nice flat pads. We'll go ahead and get some isopropyl alcohol and a Q-tip here, and we'll clean up everything as best as we can. Now there's still underfill around the perimeter that we have to deal with, and that's where a tool like this will come into play. Using my hot air set back down to 200 to 250, I'm going to carefully scrape off the underfill perimeter without digging into the board with this little blade. I'm going to go all the way up to the edge of the components. I don't want anything to get in the way of the chip seating down properly when it solders. And I'll really take my time to make sure I get every last piece out of the way. I want this to be nice and clean. I'm going to take my horsehair brush and I'm just going to brush away any of the little pieces of underfill there. And everything is looking really good. Now we need to add some flux while the board is nice and warm. Just a nice thin layer. I don't want any of these pads oxidizing as well, because I don't want those cold connections like I talked about before. And I'm just going to thoroughly spread it really thin with the brush. We'll take our NAND, we'll line it up in the correct orientation. There's a dot in one corner. If you didn't know that, you just need to make sure it ends up in the same corner. Part of me is curious when I go in to heat this up if this would be something that would be best done from under the board, because the heat can penetrate through the board and melt the solder. In that way I wouldn't risk potentially melting any of the connectors. So in the future, I might actually try that. Instead of heating directly from above, I might actually heat from below. It's how I do all of the HDMI repairs on game consoles like Xboxes and PlayStations. The heat travels through, melts the solder from the pads, and none of the pins ever have issues. But as you can see, I'm having to get this pretty hot. And those 3 connectors are right next to the NAND, which means there's a good chance that I singe them with the heat that's just all over this area now. What I'm looking for is I'm looking for the chip to actually settle. Eventually it'll settle. I'll see the flux kind of squeeze out, and then I can give it these teeny tiny taps with the tweezers. just enough to agitate all of the solder, and that'll tell me that it is sufficiently connected and all of the pads are good to go. So as soon as I see a nice little tap and a snap back, I can pull the heat away and we'll be done. And as you can see, I'm directing the heat so that when it bounces off the chip, it's not going at the connectors, it's going away from the connector area. And there's the little tap, getting some good movement. I like what I see, and we're done. And let's take a look at those connectors. Let's peel up the Kapton tape and take a look at those connectors. And I glossed them. And what I mean by that is I got it hot enough to melt the plastic on them. Only the surface though. As you can see, the connectors look just fine. They're actually going to work just fine, but I did make them shinier. They're normally kind of a flat, the black flappy part. The black flaps, that type of plastic melts fairly easily. The battery connector didn't get touched. The one that's kind of in the mid-size upper area didn't get touched, but these two are right next to the NAND. They definitely saw some heat, which is why I wonder if I go from below, if it'll be better in the future. But one thing I want to do right now is stabilize the NAND. Over time, with the amount of power that's going to be running through it, it's going to expand and contract, and eventually that can create issues with the solder joints. So in order to prevent that, we're going to basically add underfill. The underfill that I'm going to add today is slightly different than OEM underfill. OEM underfill is cured using heat, where you would put it in there and you'd, oops, that is a little too much. Let me wipe that away. Where you bake it in an oven basically for like a half an hour to an hour at like 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and that'll be how it's cured. This one though, it's somewhat transparent. It's like a transparent, semi-transparent black UV cured underfill designed for Apple products that I can pipe in around the perimeter of the NAND. It likes to come out really quick, so here we go. We're going to go quickly around the NAND. You can see it'll seep under, and because it's transparent, the UV light will actually kind of penetrate nice and deep, and over time this will air dry as well. So if there is any area that doesn't cure, it'll like right now when I hit it with the UV light, it will cure over time. I've tested it thoroughly, and we'll hit it with UV light, and this will cure nice and quick. By this point, it's practically already cured, but we'll give it another little bit under the light. I'll come in at different angles. Spend about a minute here just making sure it's fully cured. That way we will really have stabilized this chip from wanting to warp when it does take as much power and heat as it will when it's being heavily used. We don't want to stress or strain any of those solder joints. And we can put it back. There's no shields or anything that had to come off in order to get to the NAND. It's right there out in the open, easy to work on, and this motherboard, I love it. So easy to put back. Make sure all the cables are out of the way and it slots right in. And it's just 5 screws to hold the board down, bunch of flex cables and a few connectors. We'll slide in this one. It just clicks in like that. We'll flip over the bracket and snap it down. We'll connect up the FPC connector for those Type-C ports, and we'll connect up these two right here. We'll put back the bracket and we'll put back the 2 screws and tighten them on down. We'll slide in the flex cables into their little ZIF connectors, making sure those lines lined up. This big long one right here. And then we'll push down the connector. A couple more to go. Flip down the flap, push down the connector, line up the connector, and click it on down. Slide in the display connector. Make sure it goes all the way in, just like that. And then we can fold over the bracket and click it on down. Make sure everything lines up. And last but not least, the 2 coax connectors. Make sure that they click down nice and solid. And we can put back the bracket and screw. And now we need to connect up the battery. We'll find that spot and click it in. Back the bracket. And we only have 10 screws left. 2 here. And that's the motherboard back in. We'll take the back, line it on up, and we'll snap it on down. And now we just have to put back the 8 screws. Each one has thread lock on it. so that they lock into place. If you haven't already, hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos like this, and let me know in the comments below if there's something that you'd like to see in a future video. I definitely like the way this one goes back together and how slim this MacBook is. Now there's one thing that I forgot to mention before, which is that you do need a second MacBook. You do need a second Mac or MacBook in order to restore this one. You'll connect it up and you'll be able to restore it with a cable, and I'll show you how that goes. It's really quite simple. You simply put the Mac into DFU mode, and then you download the software on the other Mac, and then it'll restore the software on the connected Mac. And here's what it was before. As you can see, it's doubled. Now we're up to a full terabyte of memory.